herzlich willkommen bei whisky.de, dem Treffpunkt feiner Geister. Und heute darf ich eine neue Brennerei vorstellen, und zwar Sliabh Liag. Die Geschichte der Brennerei ist relativ kurz. Und zwar begann das Ganze 2016, als sie angefangen haben, einen Off-Brand rauszubringen, den Silky, um die Wartezeit auf den iren Whisky zu verkürzen. Und 2017 haben sie in den Hallen, wo sie eben den Silky abgefüllt haben, haben sie auch schon mit einem Gin angefangen. Aber zudem gibt es ein eigenes, separates Video. Weiter ging es dann, dass sie haben so eine Crowdfunding-Kampagne gemacht, also im Grunde Aktien rausgegeben, die man sich damals eben kaufen konnte, haben dadurch wirklich im vierstelligen Bereich Aktionäre eingesammelt und dadurch auch mehrere Millionen Euros gut gemacht und haben dadurch die initiale Finanzierung erstmal feststellen können. Und jetzt haben sie wirklich diese nicht öffentlich gehandelten Aktionäre mit den Aktien und dann haben sie 2020 im Oktober angefangen, hier den ersten Spatenstich zu setzen, das Ding zu bauen, und sind genau ein Jahr später in Produktion gegangen. Das ist eine rasante Geschwindigkeit, also sehr, sehr schnell. Also die haben das Projekt richtig gut durchgezogen, wobei sie dann ein bisschen Probleme mit ihrer Mühle hatten, die Mühle noch getauscht haben. Kommen wir aber später noch dazu, warum das so war. Und das heißt, im Jahr 2022, im Januar, sind sie dann jetzt im Grunde so, wie sie jetzt sind, voll in Produktion. Und ja, lassen wir mal reingehen und schauen, was da passiert. Die Zutaten hier bei Sliabh Liag sind extrem interessant. Wir kommen erstmal zum einfachen Teil. Sie haben 2 Brunnen, damit haben sie ein sehr schönes Wasser. Und jetzt kommen wir zum Getreide. Ja, ich sage Getreide. Erstmal haben wir gemälzte Gerste, die auch noch mit 55 ppm geräuchert wurde. Also wir haben eine schön richtige Single Malt mit 55 ppm. Das ist ihr erstes Rezept. Das ist ihr Single Malt und den werden wir jetzt auch bald erwarten als Abfüllung. Und dann haben sie noch einen Pot Still. Ich mache hier Anführungszeichen. Sie haben mir sogar gesagt, ja, das ist das alte Rezept von Powers. Also von 1800 bis, keine Ahnung, 1910 oder irgendwie sowas. Also von 1800 das alte Rezept von Powers, was aber heutzutage in den Regeln nicht mehr möglich ist. Deswegen dürfen sie es gar nicht mehr Pot Still nennen. Deswegen werden sie es wahrscheinlich Irish Whisky nennen, wenn es rauskommt. Und das besteht eben auch wieder aus gemälzter Gerste, 55 ppm. Dann haben wir ungemälzte Gerste, 0 ppm. Wenn man nicht mälzt, kriegt man keinen ppm. Und dann haben sie noch Hafer. Also sie haben noch gemälzten Hafer, den sie dann auch noch getorft haben, also auch noch geräuchert haben. Und das ist dann die Mixtur, die sie dann für ihren Irish Whisky verwenden, den wir dann jetzt begleiten dürfen. Der Gründer James hat eine Vergangenheit, beziehungsweise seine Vorfahren hatten eine Vergangenheit mit illegalem Brennen. Also wollte er eine Brennerei bauen, die das ein Stückchen reflektiert. Und was man früher beim Brennen gemacht hat, bei dem illegalen Brennen gemacht hat, man hat gar keinen Filter oder kein Sieb gehabt. Das heißt, sie wollen hier ein Wort machen, also eine Maische machen, die ungefiltert ist. Also wir hatten ja schon bei manchen Brennereien, die einen Hintergrund mit Bierbrauen hatten, hatten wir extrem gefilterte Maische gehabt. Und hier haben wir eben eine ungefilterte, wo alle Stückchen mit drin sind. Sie haben das Ganze am Anfang mit einer Rollenmühle ausprobiert, einer Walzenmühle ausprobiert. Hat leider nicht funktioniert. Sie hatten mit Ventilen Probleme und mit anderen Dingen noch Probleme. Aber jetzt haben sie umgestellt auf eine Hammermühle. Also die malt das Ganze sehr gut in ein feines Mehl. Und damit funktioniert es super. Ich hätte nie gedacht, dass eine ungefilterte Maische man durch so einen modernen Heat Exchanger durchbringt. Weil ich gedacht hätte, die sind viel zu eng. Aber die Heat Exchanger, haben sie gesagt, noch nicht mal mit der Rollenmühle hatten sie Probleme. Aber ja, so ist es halt. Ja, was sie also hier machen ist, sie machen ein Einmaischen, also sie ein Vermischen, und innen drin rühren sie das Ganze. Und rühren und rühren und rühren und haben das Ganze immer auf 65 Grad Celsius und setzen auch noch ein bisschen Enzyme dazu, um dem Ganzen noch Effizienz zu geben. Aber sind natürliche Enzyme, die auch im Malz vorhanden sind. Und dadurch, da man diese ganzen Bestandteile im Mehl, also es ist ein grobes Vollkornmehl, würde ich es mal nennen, und die Bestandteile sind immer verfügbar und geben dadurch immer Zucker ab, werden immer noch durch die Enzyme bearbeitet und die Enzyme arbeiten immer noch weiter, auch in den weiteren späteren Schritten bis zur Destillation, wo sie dann alle sterben werden, weil es zu heiß ist. Genau. Und das heißt, sie haben sogar eine wirklich sehr, sehr schön hohe Effizienz und mit diesem, ja, sie nennen es ein very cloudy wort. Also normalerweise hat man ein clear wort und ein cloudy wort und die haben eben ein extrem cloudy wort. Mit dem gehen sie dann weiter und das schauen wir uns jetzt mal an. Die Fermentation hier ist natürlich dann auch etwas komplizierter, etwas aufregender. Sie haben 6 Washbags mit jeweils 10.000 Litern Volumen, die sie einfüllen, aber die sind ein bisschen größer für den Schaum. Kommen wir gleich dazu, denn sie füllen ein und wenn sie einfach nur einfüllen würden, wie alle anderen auch, wird sich alle ihre festen Substanzen alle unten absetzen und das wäre schlecht. Also haben sie konstantes Rühren. Das hat aber auch noch den Vorteil, dass was in der Mash-Tun nicht gelöst und verrührt wurde, wird hier noch gelöst und verrührt. Reagiert dann mit Enzymen weiter und auch noch weiter mit der Hefe und wird natürlich zu Alkohol fermentiert. Die Effizienz, sagen sie, ist extrem gut. Und man fragt sich so ein bisschen, warum macht das nicht jeder? Das ist halt einfach damals vielleicht Tradition gewesen, weil man dieses ganze Pumpen und Rühren noch nicht konnte. Weiterer Vorteil ist, sie müssen nicht so viel Platz oben lassen, weil sie unten rühren. Das reduziert auch die Schaumbildung innerhalb des Washes. Sie fermentieren für 72 Stunden und jetzt mal vom Prozess ein bisschen weg. Was sie wollen, natürlich hier Geschmäcker entstehen lassen. Und was sie haben, ist ziemlich fruchtig, nussig und natürlich auch rauchig. Hier rede ich über den Single Malt. Ihr Pot Still oder ihr Irish Whisky, Irish Whisky ist, glaube ich, der bessere Name, der ist ein bisschen weiter cremiger, ein bisschen nussiger, ein bisschen intensiver und natürlich auch weniger rauchig. Und hier wird auch nicht gefiltert. Es geht einfach weiter mit dem fertig durchfermentierten, mit allen Feststoffen weiter zur Destillation. Die Destillation hier ist sehr, sehr traditionell irisch. Wir haben natürlich 3 Stills und wir fangen an mit der 10.000 Liter Wash Still. Und das erste, was ihr seht, ist, die ist nicht ganz so symmetrisch wie normalerweise eine Still ist. Ich glaube, technisch gesehen ist sie nicht rotationssymmetrisch, sondern sie hat nur eine Symmetrieachse, weil ihr Neck ist etwas offset. Normalerweise hat man das früher gemacht, weil man innen drin noch einen Rechen hatte, den man von oben bedient hat oder so ähnlich. Also da gab es viele wilde Dinge und natürlich hat man ihr immer noch mit den Festbestandteilen in unserem Wort zu kämpfen. Deswegen hat Forsyth hier eine besondere Still gebaut. Sie wird nicht durch einen Heat Exchanger im Inneren der Still betrieben. Also die Wärmezufuhr existiert außerhalb der Brennblase. Sie pumpen den gesamten Inhalt, pumpen sie ab, hitzen ihn auf und schicken ihn wieder durch einen Schlauch rein. Und dadurch wird die Still befeuert und innen drin entsteht wahrscheinlich auch ein großer Strudel, dass auch nichts anbrennt oder sonst was passiert. Und so kocht dann die Wash Still hoch und der Rest ist relativ normal. Man kocht hier relativ schnell durch. 10.000 Liter, 6 Stunden, relativ breit natürlich. Was aber dann interessant ist, sehr, sehr gedrungen und für die breite Still hat man dann noch einen Kondensator gebraucht. Der hätte länger sein müssen, als man ihn hier hätten einbauen können. Also hat man einen Doppelkondensator genommen. Der sieht sehr, sehr dick aus, aber die Schläuche gehen einmal runter, wieder rauf, wieder runter und dann sind sie kondensiert. Also hier hat man einen dickeren Kondensator gebraucht, um das Ganze auf dieser Höhe noch kondensieren zu können. Geht sogar noch weiter. In der Intermediate Still haben sie sich gesagt, okay, normalerweise verwendet man die Intermediate Still ähnlich zu einer Wash Still. Man macht noch irgendwie Feints dazu oder Foreshots dazu und brennt die halt relativ flott durch und das war's. Hier hat man 5000 Liter, aber man nimmt Cuts. Also sie machen hier ein Feinbrandverfahren, wo sie sagen, den obersten Teil machen wir in die Foreshots und den untersten Teil machen wir in die Feints und wir nehmen nur das Herzstück, und geben es weiter in die Spirit Still. Spirit Still ist natürlich ein Spirit Still Verfahren, also im Feinbrand, auch wieder die hohen und die niedrigen Cuts und 3500 Liter. Aber sie sagen sich, sie nehmen vom unteren Cut, gehen sie ein gutes Stückchen nach oben, denn wenn man weiter nach unten brennt, bekommt man bei einem rauchigen, bei einem torfigen, bekommt man eben dieses torfige, medizinische Jod und das nehmen sie und schneiden ab. Das wird wiederverwendet oder weggeschüttet oder solche Geschichten. Und deswegen haben sie einen Geschmack, den sie dann beim Destillieren rausfiltern, dass es mehr ein Campfire, also mehr ein Lagerfeuer ist. Ich fand, es hat ein bisschen so nach Kamin gerochen, Räucherofen, aber Campfire, so Bonfire, Lagerfeuer ist auch schon mit dabei. Ist ein bisschen auch Asche mit dabei, fand ich schön lecker. Ich durfte den Rohbrand genießen. War echt ein leichter, schön rauchiger Rohbrand mit einer guten Fruchtigkeit drin. Bisschen noch auf die Umweltaspekte einzugehen. Sie haben schon viel Energy Recycling, also die Energie wird wieder verwendet, die man dann aus den heißen Abfallprodukten hat. Die Abfallprodukte gehen zurzeit noch in die Methanproduktion, um da eben erneuerbare Energien herzustellen. Aber die sind relativ weit weg, also wollen sie es eigentlich gar nicht. Und sie wollen dann irgendwann mit jemandem, einer lokalen Kompostieranlage zusammenarbeiten, weil es einfach näher ist und dadurch, Kompost braucht man auch immer für das, verschiedene landwirtschaftliche Produkte. Also alles wird verwendet und sie haben natürlich keinen Treber, sondern es ist alles Pot Ale. Aber ihre Pot Ale ist halt bedeutend mehr.
Die Brennerei hat ein nettes Verfahren, was sie vor dem Abfüllen ins Fass machen. Und zwar so ein bisschen so Solera an der Geschichte. Und zwar hier bei diesen 2 Tanks kommt der Rohbrand raus mit seinen 85–87% Alkohol und wird dann hier eingefüllt und er wird nie ganz leer gemacht. Das heißt, wir haben vom ersten Rohbrand haben wir immer noch ein bisschen was hier in diesem Marrying Vat, würde ich mal, oder Spirit Receiver heißt der dann. Und ich darf auch noch ein bisschen was vom Rohbrand probieren. Also nehmen wir mal den hier. Da ist noch was drin. Schütten wir. Nein, da ist nichts drin, der ist nur sehr schwer. Und dann hole ich mir mal ein bisschen was vom Rohbrand. Und den schütten wir hier rein. Ja. Ich habe jetzt hier ein bisschen was vom Rohbrand. Und der Rohbrand ist jetzt ein Single Malt Rohbrand. Und was mir besonders auffällt an dem, er hat eine Fruchtigkeit, aber nicht diese typische Birne, grüner Apfel, die man so kennt, sondern eher so ein bisschen mehr so Richtung Zitrus und sehr, sehr nussig. Sie haben mir sogar erklärt, woher das kommt. Das kommt eben aus ihrem Verfahren, dass alle Schalen von dem Malz auch mit in der Mashtun, Washback und in der Potstill sind. Und dadurch kommen Pektine, die dann auch noch mitkommen und die verändern den Geschmack ganz stark. Also wir haben hier einen wirklich ganz anderen Rohbrand. Den Single Potstill bzw. Irish Whisky habe ich auch noch mal probiert und der ist auch sehr lecker, sogar noch ein bisschen mehr nussiger, ein bisschen würziger an der Stelle noch. Dann reden wir mal ein bisschen über Lagerung. Die Brennerei hat hier 600 Fässer auf dem Gelände. 6000 Fässer sind dann noch offsite gelagert und sie sind noch am Wachsen. Also die Fässer werden jedes Jahr mehr, aber irgendwann werden dann bald jetzt auch die ersten Fässer mal wieder zurückgeholt, um abzufüllen. Ihre Verteilung ist so 60% Bourbonfass und 40% Sherry und sie haben natürlich auch noch hier und da noch ein paar Experimente mit drin, aber das ist so, sie wollen eher ein kontinuierliches Produkt rausbringen und eine schöne Core Range damit gestalten. Ja, das war's mit der Produktion und jetzt haben wir noch ein kleines Interview. So I'm sitting here with James Doherty, and you have been 26 years in the whiskey industry.
That's it.
Rather high up though, and you've become the chair of the Irish Whiskey Association.
That's it. Just finished that. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for having us here. It's a pleasure talking to you about all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so what are we having today?
Well, today we're going to take you through the journey of smoky Irish whiskey. So whiskey that would have been typical of the northwest where we are, Donegal in particular. We think of Donegal as the Isla of Ireland. So we'll have some fun here with whiskies that will get progressively smokier, and then we'll maybe have a sneak peek at our whiskey later on.
Yeah, I love the idea of building a smoky Irish whiskey, because they do exist, but they are like small. And back in the days, was there more smoky Irish whiskey?
I think it's true to say that all of the north and west would have been originally peated whiskies. There's very little coal on the island, so it would originally have been that way. But as distilling moved into the towns, it became cleaner and less smoky until about the 1960s, really, when the only style that remained was what we would call Parliament whiskey, the sort of taste of that people would know of Jameson and things like that today.
Okay, so first one would be Silky. Is that already smoky?
So
the legendary.
The legendary Silky is it is an introduction to smoky. So if you think about the Irish whiskey category being sort of like this, it's quite close to the centre. So it has 4% of the blend is peated. So it has a smoky quality, but it comes right at the finish. It's not very obvious, if you like.
Okay. Yeah.
Shall I pour you one?
Yeah, sure. So the company is called Liag Distillers.
That's right.
And you have Silky as your brand, and now the Ardara distillery.
Yeah, it was confusing, right?
Yeah, because we always thought that like Liag whiskey, the whiskey would be called Liag.
Well, the story behind why it's not called Liag is a long one, but essentially we have two sites at the moment. We have the site at Ardara Distillery where we are now. We also have a site to build another distillery on the back of the mountain of Sliabh. Sliabh is mountain and Liag is flagstone. So
wait, how do you pronounce it right?
Sliabh, as in the sleeve of your shirt.
Sliabh.
And Liag like football league.
League, okay.
So in Irish that means the mountain of flagstones.
Yeah, because we have heard a lot of different just say the letters.
Well, and it's a bit like Isla, isn't it? The words are spelt. You know, the Irish alphabet, I think, only has 18 characters.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have a J, we don't have a K, we don't have a Q, and we don't have V, W, X, Y, and Z. So all of those sounds are made by other letters.
Oh, okay.
And in our case, a magical H. So B and a H together becomes a V. So Sliabh. And that's the way. So it's confusing if you're not into it, but for us it was important to kind of capture, we live in the Gaeltacht, and it was important to honour the Gaeltacht, the Irish-speaking area that we live in.
Yeah, I like it. I like that Ireland has all the Gaelic names under everything and like road signs and stuff.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, it's important, you know, it's part of our culture, our identity, and I think in Irish whiskey it probably hasn't been used very much. No, you know, in Scotland they embrace it a bit more than here, but you can see now with the new wave of distillers, there's a return to using the Irish language in a fun, playful way, which we are, so hopefully that'll come.
Yeah, everybody knows what valley means in Gaelic.
Yeah. Well, and there's lots of people, but Sliabh is quite common too, so hopefully people will get used to it.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
So the Silky is the mermaid legend of the West Coast, brought to us by the Vikings.
Okay.
And so a Silky she comes ashore as a seal, and she takes off her sealskin coat, and she becomes a beautiful woman, and she steals the heart of a fisherman. So that's where the story comes from. But as an introduction,
she becomes a full-fledged woman.
She becomes a fully fledged woman.
No tail attached.
No, with long legs and soulful eyes. But ultimately, she returns to the sea. And so that's the sadness of it, which is, you know, this area, there's a kind of mischief and a melancholy to the way we look at life.
Okay.
But the Silky, as you can taste it, you smell it.
It's nice and sweet.
Yeah, I love things that are a bit too sweet. I love cold drinks, so I always drink with ice.
Okay.
And so when we blend these, we blend them to be a little bit sweeter. So when you put the ice in, it comes down.
But there's a very hint. There's just a smidge of it. Like the 1-digit ppm ones.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's probably only, if you work out the calculation, it's probably 6 or 7% ppm, 6 or 7 ppm maybe.
I love that. The 1 ppm. I love because they have it feels a little bit like a chocolatey, and this one is a sweet one, so it feels like a milk chocolate to me in the smell.
No, that's interesting the way you describe it. I hadn't thought of it like that. I mean, when I was blending this, the idea was the taste of an apple pie
Okay.
in my grandmother's kitchen.
Okay.
So there's this kind of fresh green apples, a bit of orange, a bit of ginger, sort
yeah,
of buttery
you do have
pastry,
the apples as well. Yeah, definitely.
and then just on the finish you get a little bit of smoke. So
Yeah, it depends on what you focus on.
But it was the best blended Irish whiskey at the World Whiskey Awards of 2021. It's all of them are bottled at 46%. So they're non-chill filter, natural colour, so we don't put any colouring in.
I like it.
I get the chocolate now. Maybe you suggested the chocolate, but I get it when you're now saying it to me.
46% works really well. So it's an intense one.
Yeah,
The volume of flavor is quite intense.
We talk about soft drinking hard spirits. We like the soft mouthfeel, but I think that allows you to carry big flavour and also high strength. So we do some of them at cask strength, and even at 64% they drink really well. So
I do like it, and you're quite a young company, but the Silky was quite well received.
yeah, I think we learnt a bit actually. The very first one we did, which was largely coulis liquids. Now they're sort of from Great Northern. The recipe at that time had much less smoke, and people said, "Well, Sliabh Liag is about smoke," and so we actually you're right. So we actually tweaked the blend at that point to increase the level of smoke on it, so that it was more obvious. It's still subtle,
Yeah.
but it now makes it ladders through this range of Silky, getting smokier into our own style, which is heavily peated. So.
Okay, I like the idea and the beginning of your distillery. I like your building time was incredible. Like I've never heard that you can build a distillery so fast.
It took 52 weeks, yeah. So we were very lucky. I think the team were all ready to go. We had lined up for site, so they had already built the equipment for us.
Okay.
So everything was ready.
Like, have you been involved in the project management or?
So James Keith, who founded the business with us, he's a project manager. That's his thing.
Okay.
So he had gone through all of the detail of it. We had lined it up. We're very lucky because we're a local architect, locally manufactured the shed, if you like, the building, and the contractor was local as well. So
these locals around here are really, really good builders, huh?
They're ingenious and they're resourceful, so they get stuff done. And of course, it was during COVID, and most building sites got closed during COVID,
okay.
so people weren't able to work.
Well, you were quite remote.
We're remote, and also because alcohol is considered a foodstuff. Okay. We were considered an essential service, so we were allowed to carry on building. Yeah, I'm not going to argue. They essentially let us carry on building.
Moria told you that you got some sanitizer out from the still.
We did. So we used the waste from the gin stills to.
So you helped.
Yeah, and also with Moira being a nurse, she used the recipe using the sugar kelp.
Okay.
And holly extract, so it had this antibacterial quality which everyone needed, but it was also soft on your skin because of the seaweed extracts, and so it didn't burn your skin. So
okay, nice. But you also had a little bit of trouble with your mill. Was that like trouble? Was it like, oh my God, we're going bankrupt, or was it like, oh, a little bit of a hiccup? Let's improve it.
Well, Forsyth built the distillery, the equipment, and they were superb. So when we set out, we had a design that I'd put together with the Forsyth guys, which was built on, maybe we can talk about it in a minute, but grains in distilling, and it's not common. And when they first set it up, we were learning, and they were learning at the same time.
Okay.
And so we used a roller mill at the beginning, and we couldn't get the yields, and everything kept blocking, and so it was painful, but it wasn't a disaster, and it didn't involve. It wasn't a kind of financial disaster, but it was painful because we couldn't produce the way we wanted to, or as much as we wanted to. But the Forsyth guys were brilliant about coming in, switching out the roller mill for a hammer mill.
Okay.
So unusually, our grist is a 2 millimeter flour. It's not mixed particles that you would expect to see in a single malt distillery, and that allows us to do the rest of the process, which is probably the more interesting part of what we do.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one is called the dark.
Yeah, so if we move on to dark silky, so dark silky, let me pour this one for you and we'll let it sit for a second whilst we're chatting. So the dark silky was takes you on this journey into smoke that takes you on further up the ladder. So now this is 15% of the blend is peated. This has got 3 whiskies in it, so 15% is peated, triple distilled peated single malt from Ireland, obviously. 15% is double distilled unpeated, and 70% is virgin oak grain. So it leans a little bit towards bourbon in style, which is kind of fun, but it wears the smoke much more obviously on the outside of it. So.
Oh yeah, you do have a smoke.
Yeah,
it's a smoky. The first one was you had this hint, and where does it fit? And this one, this one has a.
So you go from a gentle introduction to peated to something a bit more obvious.
Yeah, yeah.
The memory I used to try and build the blend is the taste. If you can imagine a 10-year-old me, I was a little less hairy, quite small, but I used to steal my grandfather's pipe in the morning and run around the house like I was the big man, and so far I was trying to capture the taste of his pipe. Okay. And there was this appley, tobacco-y taste.
Okay.
And then this kind of big, dry, ashy sort of pipe smoke. So that's, you get this salted caramel sweetness, bit more baked apples, typically Irish, I guess you would say.
Yeah, it has an Irish tone to it, like the typical Irish tone to it. But it's
but that smoke is not hiding. It's not.
It's less sweet than the first one. Yeah, definitely. And it has a fresh fruitiness to it. You have that smoke to it that is not hiding at all. But yes, you're going for, again, probably for the bonfire smoke and the burnt out campfire at the not at the sea this time, I would say, because is it low on iodine as well? Again?
It's not low on iodine because of the whiskey is sourced, so it's not one of ours. But I hide the iodine behind other flavors in the blending process. So. But it has a little bit of licorice almost as well to it. So it brings a kind of sweetness and smoke together. And really add something to a cocktail. So if you're a cocktail type drinker, fantastic in a penicillin, in an old fashioned, where you get that kind of smoke adding on to the flavors that you would normally expect to be there.
But it's in the taste, it does have even a bit more smokiness than I would say in the nose. But that's typical for the peat smoky whiskies. They do hide on the first nose. They do hide a little bit their smokiness.
And once you've got a bit of smoke on your tongue, it kind of fools you a little bit. But also, I think Irish peated, with it being triple distilled, you end up with the smoke is always a bit more subtle because that triple distilling process removes some of that peating.
So, but I have to grab the opportunity here to, you were head, or what was it, chair or board member, or was it of the Irish
chair of the Irish Whisky Association.
That is really high up, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, it's a voluntary position, so I'm not sure. But the industry comes together, as you know. So the Scotch Whisky Association has a body. In America, they have a body, a similar sort of body, and the Irish Whisky Association pulls together the majority of the distillers on the island. I think 96% of all the whiskey producers were represented.
So is a lot of arguing between these distillers, or?
Well, I mean, if you put 4 or 5 distillers in a room, you come out with 7 answers. So I'm not sure you end up with it's a very collegiate industry. So particularly at a production level, we're all interested in making good whiskey and great whiskey, and people work together. We're fortunate we work with some of the smaller distilleries where we buy and sell to each other, but also in the bigger companies, the big guys are really good about supporting us. I mean, I don't have a full lab here, so I can't do gas chromatography and things like that, but actually Irish distillers will help us with that. John Teeling at Great Northern will help us with that. So it's a very supportive industry because everybody knows that we need to make good, the category needs good whiskey. We don't need bad whiskey out there, so we all work together in a pretty supportive way.
The thing is, you're all competitors, but you're also all working together to build one brand, the Irish whiskey.
Exactly.
So how is the state of the Irish whiskey then? How would you say?
It's an interesting time. I mean, it's grown. If you think from the 80s, where there was 2 distilleries, to now where there's 50 in production.
Okay.
And actually, of those 50 now, most of them are coming to the point where they're starting to release their own spirit, which is is a really exciting time because you're moving from a wood story and finishing stories into spirit, intrinsics, and kind of what the DNA of new distilleries is. So I think that's an exciting time for us. The world is a tougher place these days. You know, it's not an easy time to be raising capital and things like that. But actually, if your intrinsics are solid, if your business is fundamentally sound, you have to believe that the category will double again, by 2030. And arguably, Johnny Walker is bigger than the whole Irish whiskey category. So if you think about it in that context, the headroom for Irish whiskey is massive, and so we're optimistic about the future.
Yeah, the thing is, at some point of time, I think the Irish whiskey was like the dominating force, like the bit of rye and the bit of Scotch, but Irish whiskey.
That's right. So if you think about the sort of 1890 to sort of the turn of the century there, Irish whiskey was dominant. It was the category that everybody turned to. It's in some ways incredibly sad that we're it's fallen away from there, but as it comes back, we're able to go back into those flavors from the 1910s, 1920s, and look at how people made whiskey then and bring that forward. So, we can be innovative by looking at what happened before. So there's a lot of fun in there too.
Yeah, I really liked it. And so the next one is then another step up.
So another step up in smokiness, but we're trying to play a slightly different game. So these are like cousins rather than brothers. This is Midnight Silky. And the Midnight Silky is a single malt using 5 different casks. And the inspiration here is to think about Christmas in Donegal. As a single malt, what's interesting is that the grain whiskey that you have in Silky, the first 2 Silkies, gives you a big round sweetness, and then you can hang the flavour, the smoke around the outside. With a single malt, it's much more woven in. So when we sort of have a smell of this and get the aromas, what you'll see is that it's the smoke is more obvious on the nose, but when we taste it, you'll find it's a little bit more elegant and a little bit more subdued because of the way the smoke is woven through the different casks.
Also, it feels a little bit more dry.
Yeah.
So smoke's going up, and that sweetness, the caramel sweetness, is going a little bit down.
Because the grain whiskey, you haven't got the grain whiskey, which has that intense sweetness to it. That isn't in here. So we use Cabernet Sauvignon casks, which give you like a toffee apple sweetness. Some Imperial Stout, which gives you chocolate creaminess. You get that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The peated is in bourbon. We've got Oloroso sherry and a little bit of virgin oak. And the virgin oak gives you a bit of dryness and a bit of colour as well.
Oh, yeah, I like it. But they're really, as you said, cousins. They are. Yeah, they're not. There's a bit of a line in there, but just a slight line that combines.
So the appley character, I think, is the continuum in them, but it's not.
Yeah, in the first one, the appley character was a bit, overwhelmed with the caramel. But now the second one definitely appley character. This one definitely has an apple. But one of these, what was it, Granny Smith, the really green one?
Really fresh,
fresh
almost
one.
sharp. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
So it has a lovely kind of eased. So it drinks much easier than you think it's going to from the nose. So.
This is really 46.
And these are 46, so that's that soft drinking, hard spirit. So soft drinking, so give you that mouthfeel. It allows us to play. I mean, some people might call it smoothness. We like the idea of soft mouthfeel as a...
Yeah, I like the idea. You still have a soft whiskey. You like the capture of the Irish and triple and stuff, but with a bit of smoke in it.
Yeah.
Because people associate more smoke with rough because they probably had a lot of Islay.
Yeah. Well, people jump into smoke and they jump straight into the deep end. No one. This was trying to say that, look, can you come to that smoky journey? But let's give you some steps that get you to where we want to be.
But the strange thing is, I've had a lot of beginners tastings. A lot of people love the jumping into the deep end. I don't know if I would like to once try a ham tasting. Yeah. If they are like normal ham, like heavy smoky ham.
it's an odd one because also I think people in who are already in the deep end kind of say, "Come in, it's lovely," and it's like, yeah, it is, but actually.
There's so much more to explore.
There's a lot of steps in here, and you can jump in straight away, and you might love it. But actually, you should really give yourself a bit more chance to explore, in my view, anyway. So it's you know, and these are taking you to ultimately what you know the Ardara distillery is about, which is a heavily peated, triple distilled single malt.
Yeah, so we got to know the Ardara distillery quite well now, but we have not seen anything about the range. So what are the plans for the future? How much what is coming out there, and what are the plans for the future?
Well, the Ardara distillery is a grains in distillery, so we can so it has a kind of interesting process piece. It's triple distilled. Everything we make is triple distilled, so we're not trying to do double distilled. So triple distilled, heavily peated, largely single malt. We do make some pot still, but we'll think about what we do with that another day. But the style of this area would all have been single malt originally, and it would have all been peated, and that's ultimately what it brings to the table. We produce. So last year we produced nearly 500,000 litres. It's designed to produce 500,000 litres, 500,000 LPA. It's about 3,600 barrels a year.
Okay.
And we have about 6,000 barrels in stock. So obviously the first 2 years we were building up production as we went.
So over the next years we can expect like 1, 2 like core bottlings, or how you gonna?
Yeah, well the intention is to try and produce a core flavour and use that and watch that age over time. We will release a cask strength. I wasn't convinced by cask strength, but actually our whiskies drink so well at cask strength, people have asked for them, so we'll do a cask strength. And Graham, the head distiller, has been very clear that using the sort of bourbon barrel version of Ardara, because we do lay down quite a lot of Oloroso sherry, the bourbon barrel is probably the purest reflection of the taste. And so he wants to release that as a distiller's choice, if you like. So available only at the distillery.
Oh, okay.
So you have to come and see us if you want it. So
okay. And this is the design of this is actually a plastic bottle.
it is. It's a good-looking plastic bottle, though. Yeah.
It's a good-looking plastic bottle, but you're not getting. You're getting a cork, or
no? It's a screw top.
It's a screw top.
So that's not the screw top we're using, but it will be a screw top.
It will be a screw top. Okay.
Yeah, so we want. I think these days, you know, with wine and other categories, people are already accepting that you can change the way the closures work. So we will be. So we'll be using a screw top on it, and it's a heavy bottle designed around the flavour period, which is 1910, 1920. So we're looking to have a bottle that reflects that.
And it's going to be Ardara.
Ardara.
Sorry.
Ardara.
Ardara.
Yeah.
Like the town.
Like the town, yeah.
Okay.
The A in the middle, we write it down, but you don't say it.
Ardara. Okay. And the all grains in refers to you take the grains and you put it through the whole process without filtering. Yeah,
so it sounds kind of crazy, but the process that we've developed is essentially, you know, my grandfathers were both illicit distillers, and the illicit distillers did not filter anything, and so we wanted to try and honour that, and we were convinced as well that if you think about the peating process where you put peat smoke onto the outside of the husk, well, we don't want to filter the husks away. We want to keep that in all the way through the process. So we, by using the hammer mill, we're able to keep the grain in right the way through the process. So we ferment on the grain is still in there, and we distill in the wash still on the grain as well. So the grain is in that wash still for that first distillation run.
All in.
So you could argue maybe we get all of the character of the grain all the way through the process.
Yeah. I like the idea, and you said the yields and efficiency is not that bad either.
Well, it's better than that. I mean, I'd say that the efficiency is better than you would expect. So for a smaller distillery like ourselves, we get yields, without being too technical about it, but yields that are sort of over 400 litres per tonne. Okay. Which is for a small distillery, that's super efficient.
Okay, nice.
So
you know, really good.
And it creates unexpectedly good flavours. So we get some flavours that are, you know, we wanted fruity, nutty, smoky. I think we get waxy, almost a bit like you get from some Campbelltowns and things, which are kind of funny. Okay. So if you're up for it, I have a sneak
I'm totally
peek.
Up for it.
Okay. So obviously this is a silky bottle. I didn't check the ABV.
46.
46. So we've already diluted this down, so apologies for that. But this is 51% is Oloroso sherry,
Okay.
31% is American bourbon, and then 18% is virgin oak.
Oh, okay.
So, and the virgin oak, I think over time will phase out. You need it in the early years. But the intention is that this style is the style you can expect from us forever.
Yeah. Oh, that is intense smoke. That is
Oh, there you go.
intense smoke. But that is really far away from a maritime smoke.
Yes.
It's really far away. It's a really, strangely enough, still dry.
Yep.
Because I think that the maritime, this phenolic is also dry, but this is dry. And it's what you said with ashy. I didn't have it in your new make, but this is really ashy. And
It's got that.
for me, still, your master distiller said it's like a bonfire or was a campfire or something. And I'm with chimney.
Yeah, no, I think
I'm with
chimney is right. I thought also it for me it evokes the taste of my granddad's pipe as well. You know that
Okay.
that just is a flavour for me, but there's a waxiness to that sweet quality. So,
Yeah.
which I think is really good fun. It plays with the smoke quite nicely.
But it's a really heavily peated. So there's a, if you have like the ladder, it's really a step up to it.
Yeah, it probably moves out to here somewhere, but
Yeah, but I like it. I like it. You do have a few of other touches like your nuttiness, your waxiness. It goes on, but the
there's a little bit of citrus I get as well,
Yes.
which is odd. But I think that comes, as I
I
understand
don't know.
it.
It feels a little bit like a bourbon barrel.
Yeah, I
little bit
wonder
like-
whether it's the pectins in the husks that give you a sort of citrusy, whether it's lemons or oranges.
Strange.
Strange good, right? And it's young. It's still got edges, you know.
You feel a bit, yeah, that it can take a few more years, but I like you feel the triple distillation.
Yeah.
You feel that you have a really smooth distillation going on. I mean, you have the intermediate stills doing cuts as well, so what do you expect there? That you have a lot of like the longer alcohols, the higher alcohols? No.
No, and it's I think also for me there's a timing as well. So you drink it, and there's almost like a delay before the smoke comes alive in your mouth. It's almost like the warmth of your tongue makes the smoke come alive.
The smoke is not as overwhelming as the nose, but it's still heavily peated smoke, and it feels a little bit like a bread.
Yeah, I think
It gives a bit
maybe
of a
that's
bread vibe. I don't know why.
Do you think maybe the youth, that's closer to the kind of new make spirit flavour?
A little bit of that malty and bread, but I like it that I tried the new make, and okay, this is much smoother than 87% new make, but you still have new make in there.
Yes.
Like you feel the distillery character, and
There's I mean, there's obviously we need time.
Yeah.
You can't substitute time in a single malt, but I think this gives you a lot of indications of where it's going and what this will do over time. I think this will become bigger, rounder, richer, and
This is but still also I would recommend trying one at the beginning, and people may say, okay, I'll wait till 7 years. Recommend because it's a whole new experience with the smoke. It's really different to what you have. Usually when you have like someone who's not in the marine flavors, they go with less than 40 ppm, I would say.
Yeah.
But this one goes all in like chimney style, campfire style, 55 ppm.
And we cut. I mean, when we were looking at the spirit still earlier, you know, we're cutting at 65%, which is really high for a peated whiskey. So you've got all of the kind of high alcohols, but those heavier sort of maritime, iodine-y, soapy kind of flavors that I love in an Islay. We were absolutely committed to not having them in an Irish. We want our Irish to be that dry, smoky. I'd love it to have a sweet finish. It's getting there. The waxiness, I think, allows you to do that, which means you're more likely to come back and buy a second one, which is always a good thing.
What I do like is you had more than 50% sherry. It's not overwhelming.
No.
Yeah,
No.
the sherry, I guess it has a lot of the flavor in there, and probably a bit of nuttiness maybe around there, but it's not overwhelming. So this represents the distillery, I think, very well.
Thank you. Yeah, and early days. So hopefully we'll have some more fun as it develops, and we can see where it gets to.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure when the Ardara will come out, when this video will come out. So maybe have a look at the whiskey.com news. Keep being subscribed. I will mention it definitely there.
Fantastic. No, thank you for the support.
And yeah, thank you very much for the interview and all the tasting and all the information about the distillery.
Brilliant, man. It's an absolute pleasure. Wonderful that you came over and spent some time with us, and we love sharing this little piece of Donegal with the world.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Next week will be the gin video. And yeah, if you like these whiskies, have a look at whiskey.com and whiskey.de. We do sell them there if you live in Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, or in Switzerland. And thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.